Sequel Podcast. I'm Matt Bonta.
I'm Gregory Klino.
And today, Greg, what are we doing today?
Today we get to interview the director, creator, producer of Mother's Day.
Cory Stevens. Greg, you and I watched Mother's Day. It's an earlier fan film from 2007 based on the young adult novel from the early 90s.
Right.
And we had fun watching it. And when I was watching it on YouTube, I commented, where was this film?
Right.
And the guy who owned the YouTube channel commented right back, and that was Cory, commented right back and was like, New Hampshire. And I'm like, maybe this guy's, available to interview.
Yeah,
and maybe we can get him on
he
and talk
responded right away. He's like, oh, maybe he's down to talk more about it.
And he was. So we watched it. I had you watch it, so I watched it twice to prepare. And what follows is our interview with Cory.
Cory Stevens.
Enjoy.
How are ya?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. I only just realized now I don't know you guys' names.
Right. And just so you know, we're recording already.
Okay.
For our podcast. I'm Matt Bonta.
I'm Greg Klino.
And you are
guys.
Cory?
Cory.
Okay. Hopefully we don't get too many freezes in here. The internet's not super great.
Cool.
But yeah, so this is my podcast, Sequel Podcast. I'm a filmmaker, and we kind of do random podcasts here and there when we get the chance. And we watched your movie, Mother's Day. Your Friday the 13th fan film. And
appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
It was good. We liked it.
It was a lot of fun, but we'll
Thank
get there.
you.
We'll get there. So tell us about yourself. Can we get a little bit of your background?
Yeah. Born and bred, New Hampshire native. Just kid of the 80s, 90s, so just grew up loving movies and everything. Got into horror when I was like 10, when I first came across Friday the 13th on the USA marathons that they used to have.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then, ended up kind of starting to make my own films when I was a teenager. Followed that into going to school. I went to Keene State College in New Hampshire. They had a film program. So I could stay close to home and not be too far away, and also wasn't going to be able to afford going to anything like major film school or anything like that. Met a lot of my friends that I'm still really close with today. We made a lot of movies together, and a lot of them helped me make Mother's Day. And since the school days, I've worked. I do video editing work still now. I've worked in different things in the industry, mostly like reality TV, post-production, stuff like that. Like I worked on like Ink Master, American Pickers,
okay.
And I guess that's just kind of like the short run-up of it.
All right.
That's cool.
So why Friday the 13th?
I guess because it was one of the first things I saw. Technically, the first time I ever found out about Friday the 13th was the NES game.
Right.
My cousin had bought it used at the local video store, and I went to visit him, and he was playing the game, and I was like, what is this? And he's like, Friday the 13th. I'm like, what is that? And he's like, I have no idea. We're supposed to go around and just try to attack this guy named Jason and get in the cabin with him and we just get obliterated.
Yes. I could not beat that game until I got a Game Genie.
Oh, you used the Game Genie. That was probably a good idea. As I got a little older and I learned how to play it, I actually can do pretty well at it now whenever I haven't fired it up in quite a few years. But usually now when I fire it up, I can actually get quite far or even beat the thing, but it's not an intuitive game at all. So that piqued my interest on just Friday the 13th and Jason, and then talking through some like other like family. Like I found out it was like a horror movie thing. My mom wasn't letting me watch that stuff yet, and then it was one of those USA marathons. My cousin was over having a sleepover. That's when I was starting to get left home alone, and I called my mom when the marathon was on and Jason Takes Manhattan was on, and he had just gotten to Manhattan. And I called my mom. And I was like, "Can we watch this, please? We just really want to watch it." She's like, "I don't want to hear about it afterwards. If you get scared by this stuff, I don't want to hear anything more about it." And from there, it was just, I don't know. I can't say exactly what it was. It was a long time ago now. What exactly made me kind of go for it, I don't know. It was just kind of like it was taboo. It wasn't supposed to be one. We had Jason and the mask, and I didn't get the whole lead up on the boat. So for me, it was Took Manhattan. And I don't know which one came on after that, but after that, I was hooked. I wanted to watch more of them. And I rented right into Freddy as well. And I saw Wes Craven's Nightmare, and I must have rented Wes Craven's Nightmare from the video movie. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know, something about even though Friday the 13th it kind of just still had it was very Northeast. It felt like it was right in my backyard, or it could happen right around there. The whole idea of Jason, just his whole mystery, his whole legacy, and all that stuff just really just took me in.
Great.
Big ramble.
No, I'm in the same boat. Like my mom and my aunt kind of tortured me with horror movies. Friday the 13th being one of the biggest ones.
I started with Halloween and Michael Myers.
It took a few years before I got into Halloween.
All right, so why the young adult novel for the movie that you chose to make?
So I didn't come across those novels until my freshman year of college, 2003, 2004. I had no idea about them, and I can't remember exactly how I did find out about them. I don't know if it's just because I think around then I was on eBay a lot, just looking for Friday the 13th stuff on eBay and posters and everything. And I think I found a listing for the books, and I was like, "What are these?" I didn't know there were any Friday the 13th books out there. Then I did a little research on them, and I was like, okay, young adult novels. But back then I was like, I want them. I need to get these now. I want to know what they're about, and I want to read them. So Mother's Day was the first book, so I said, okay, I'll go get Mother's Day. And back then, those books were easier to obtain on eBay for a lot cheaper. Now, if you find those things on there, I think they're
heavy collector's items. Absolutely, it's discouraging.
So back then, I think I got it for $15 or whatever. They were not popular or anything at all back then. So I picked it up, and I read it, and even though it was clearly a teen novel and all that stuff, it reminded me of kind of almost like the R.L. Stein books that he did that weren't the Goosebumps.
Oh, the Fear Street
series,
one.
Fear Street. And I read it, and even though it had the different angle where it was kind of coming off of Jason Goes to Hell and the body possessing kind of spirit thing, it really struck me as a really good Friday the 13th story. It just felt like Friday the 13th, and I was like, oh man, this would just kick so much ass as a movie. And I was like, well, nobody's gonna make this. I was into making my own, me and my buddies were making our own Friday the 13th spoof movies around that time. They're all really bad. It was kind of my filmmaking exercises more so. But I was like, this would be fun to try to do, see if I can pull this off. And so just from there, I just read the book a few more times over. I didn't even get around to the other books. I just picked up Mother's Day, and I was just obsessed with that one book. And it took a few years to get around to it, but I ended up finally, obviously, getting myself together and making it. It just felt very Friday the 13th, and it just felt like a story that I just really wanted to see actually play out on the screen. So I just said, screw it, I'm gonna do it.
Now, yeah, I wanted to agree. It did, those books and your movie absolutely make me feel like back in the 90s when I was reading, Goosebumps. I never did Fear Street. I went straight from, Goosebumps to Stephen King.
Yeah.
But I saw them all the time. You go to the grocery store or the book fairs they'd have at school, and they've got all those books. And your movie and those books absolutely bring me back to when I was a kid, and I love it.
Thanks.
Now, when was the last time you watched your movie?
Well, since I just kind of re-edited it, I've seen it a bit. In terms of
oh, that's right.
Sat down and watched it. In terms of just literally just sitting to view it, was a little more than a year ago when I kind of mostly finished my recut, but I hadn't like fine-tuned it. My buddies and I got together for like a weekend vacation, finally coming out of, you know, the heaviness of the pandemic, and we were like, we need to just get together in a cabin and just hang out, guys, and just chill, play video games, watch movies. And it would happen to be the Friday the 13th that was in August last year. And we all agreed that that day we're just going to have Friday the 13th movies on the TV. And pretty much they're like, Corey, you picked the one to watch tonight. And so I set up like a special screening because a few of them that were there hanging out were in the movie. Like my buddy Dave, who plays Albert, another friend of mine, Steve, who plays Kyle. They were there. My friend Corey, who's Paul Sexton. And so I said, so it popped up and they were like, oh, we're going to watch this. I'm like, yeah, it's my new recut that I did. So I'm kind of beta testing it on you. And I'm also watching it for myself and taking notes on these things that I need to fix or still alter or whatever like that. So like a year ago.
Okay, so it's pretty fresh then. Because we've got comments on... Because we watched the whole thing and made notes and things to bring up for this.
Oh, awesome.
So, who are your cast and crew?
Like friends or...
Yeah, friends, actors... Most of them are
a little bit of both. Like I started when it came to like casting it, I kind of started with my like core group of friends. Some of them like my pal Dave, who played Albert. He's one of my best friends, and we met in college. And he was a fellow film student, and he's made his own films and everything. And immediately when I knew I was going to make this movie, I was like, Dave, I know you're not an actor, but you need to play Albert because you just are Albert. You are him. And I knew just him just being himself, he would pull that off. My buddy Corey is like another one of my best friends. Not an actor, but not exactly probably who you would think would need to play Paul Sexton. But I was like, you're gonna be Paul. But and some of my other friends, like Steve, who played Kyle, was another Keene State buddy, film student of mine. Allie, who played Suzanne, was another friend from Keene State. I knew him from my hometown. I went to school with him. He was a couple years younger than me in school. I knew that Ben had done plays before, so I said he would be perfect as Boone, and he actually has some experience acting. And then the most important casting that I did was Carly. She actually did plays as well, did plays with Ben, knew she had an interest in actually close with her. She was sort of dating a cousin of mine, and a few years younger than me. We were in track and field together, and I had originally asked her about shooting it. I was originally able to do it, and I just sat on the movie for a whole year. I was like, I would love for you to do this. I don't really want to go with anybody else, so I get her. So everybody was kind of an acquaintance or a close friend that had just into hopping into each other's movies, and that's why it's kind of hit and miss over there. The old man, Ned Varner, he was actually my high school video productions teacher.
Okay.
And he ran for a few years the local cable channel for the Newport area, and he was my boss. I worked at the station for like a summer or two, so I knew he would be perfect, just literally being himself and being weird and awkward and stuff like that, and he crushed that part.
Where is everybody now?
Like Dave went on to make some more of his own short films. One that I even acted in. Some continue to pursue acting. Molly continued to pursue acting, but it didn't really pan out. The rest of Corey, he's still living in New Hampshire. Some of them I don't keep in touch with as much. Like I haven't seen Molly in a long time, not since before the pandemic and everything. I lived in New York for like a little more than 10 years, and just before the pandemic happened is when my wife and I decided to move back to New Hampshire. So since the pandemic happened, everybody kind of like scattered out, but a lot of us ended up in New York, or some of them were still in New Hampshire. Ben, he moved to Georgia. I haven't seen him in years. I'm haven't spoken to Allie in a long time. Yeah, it's just kind of, I think actually Paul Radisich, who plays Ned Varner, he is actually in Nevada. I think he's in the Lake Tahoe area.
Okay.
Last I knew. So he's out more towards your neck of the woods.
Yeah, it's an hour away.
He's another one I haven't seen in a while. But Corey and Dave are the ones I see and speak to on a fairly regular basis.
Cool. And what about you? Did you make anything else?
After Mother's Day, I made a few more short projects. But once I got to New York, I really just kind of dove into just kind of like the job, the day-to-day grind of doing post-production. I kind of helped out more like Dave on like his short films and everything. It was just tough with like doing the day job and the cost of living in New York. It was tough to kind of just pull together, like trying to like get any projects off the ground. And then I find myself re-editing Mother's Day. I tried actually at one point. It wasn't a very good effort, but I wanted to make Jason's Curse. I thought the second book was almost as good as Mother's Day and was like such a really great follow-up, like direct sequel almost to Mother's Day. And I wish I could have pulled that off. I tried to do something with it, but coming back to New Hampshire and trying to film it there while living in New York, it was just something that just wasn't feasible. And then what I did shoot of it, I ended up turning into like a really lame short film. But yeah, no, I didn't really get going on a lot more projects after Mother's Day. I could almost say that Mother's Day really took it out of me. It was a really tough year making that movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Every movie I make, it's like 2 years until I make another one because it's very draining and exhaustive. Absolutely.
The itch is still there. The itch has never gone away. I've had like some ideas for things that just I mull over in my mind. I just can't get them down on the paper, and then had a daughter, and now I have a toddler running around, and I feel like I have even less time. But
yeah,
the itch is still there to try to do something, and it's just tough to when you spend all day looking at Adobe Premiere for 8 hours. It's tough at the end of the day to want to keep grinding like even further. So it's trying to get over that hump a little bit.
Yeah, I know how that can feel. I also I just spent 8 hours learning the new Red workflow.
Okay, yeah, so there you go.
All right, so did you write the adaptation?
Yes.
And how was that?
From what I remember, it was pretty easy, which is probably just because I really just tried to stick to it like too closely. Like I really almost just wanted to nail it like word for word. I don't know why I was so devoted to it in that sense. I mean, I did make changes that I knew that I had to make in order to kind of accommodate what I was going to be able to pull off. That's why everybody in the movie is sleeping in tents and there are no cabins around or anything like that, because I didn't have access to an actual campsite or anything with like rundown cabins. So I was like, okay, we got to change this to be them in tents, and some of the more some of the more supernatural bits I needed to try to figure out how to tone down. But I remember it being like fairly easy and quick to do because I was just so driven to want to just do it. So I just like rattled that thing out.
Now I read like an interview you did. I forget who it was with. Now, did you work with the author of the book?
Yeah, he and I actually connected. That's funny. I wonder where you pulled that up. That must have been an old one. I did on one of the old, like, Friday the 13th message boards that were around.
I think it was like a transcript
back in the day. Original FridayThe13th.com website or something. Yeah, something like that. And I remember I think I had gone on the forum just being like, I'm going to make an adaptation of Mother's Day. Just trying to drum up excitement for it and hopefully get another Friday the 13th. He ended up responding on there. He was on there himself, and then he and I just kind of connected through email, and he just kind of wanted to just offer what he could and whatnot. And I remember I think I sent him like a copy of the script just to get his thought on it. But since I had pretty much stuck to his book almost as faithfully as I could, he didn't really have much in the way of notes. And then he helped a lot when it started to approach time, like when it was going to come out or like when I had trailers out there and such. Yeah.
Did he do the voice of Pamela Voorhees at the end? The head?
Yeah, he did. He said he had an old hag voice that he could do. So I said, well, absolutely, you got to have like your own cameo in this. So yeah, do it up.
Nice, nice. What kind of a camera did you use and equipment?
The Sony PD-170 was the primary camera. I also had a Canon GL2 at the time that I used for a little bit of like B-roll and secondary photography, but primarily stuck with the PD-170. We were very lucky. Me and Dave and some of our other film buddies, my buddy Mathew Lundberg, who was our DP for most of the shoot, we were really tight with like our film professors and such. We really got on with them, and we were always just doing. We had like our coursework, but we were always just making films and shorts and skits and gags and stuff like that all the time. We were always just wanting to just be creative, just all the time, and they could see that we just wanted to do that stuff. Whereas we knew a lot of people who just went to class, did the film for class, and that always seemed what they wanted to do. So when it came time for us to do Mother's Day, I asked about borrowing just a few pieces from the film department, and my film professor, Tom Cook, was just like, it's the summer. Nobody's using any of this stuff. Go into the locker and take anything and everything you want and take it for the whole summer and just bring it back before the school year starts. And
awesome.
I was just like,
that's great.
I was like, are you serious? Because lights, cameras, a dolly with a dolly, on the track, and we had like a jib arm and, the camera and everything. So like I took my buddy and I went down in his SUV and we just loaded the thing to the brim with everything I could take out of there. And I kept all the film equipment for like 2 months. Didn't cost us anything. Couldn't have asked for anything better.
When did you film it?
The summer of 2006 was the primary principal photography. Shot a lot of weekend, like 2 or 3 big weekends where I got most everybody together. I remember I was so ambitious. I was like, we're going to knock out like all this movie in like 2 weekends. I know how we're going to do it. And wow, was I wrong. But I will say the very first weekend we shot almost 30 pages in 3 days. I thought that was pretty awesome. But I needed to get more time out of them. And so I got them together for a few big weekends. And then other than that, the ones that were local to the Newport, New Hampshire area, like Molly, like I would just get Molly and be like, when are you free? Can I get you this night? And we can go up to the campsite. Because the location we were at too was land that of a family members that had like a pond on it. We always used to go camping up there when we were kids and everything like that. And my relative was like, "Yep, you can come up here. You can run extension cords and run power and all you need." So like, if I had free time with any of the cast, I would just grab them and I would run up there and we'd knock out this scene or we'd knock out that scene. So we did most of the photography July and August of 2006. I spent the school year editing it, and then when we got to after the school year and after the winter was over and the spring had really come in, I did some pickups and additional reshoot, like one big weekend in May, and then just some more little things to just fill in the stuff that I needed.
That pond looks just like the original lake.
Thank you, because it's not a very big pond, so I was very conscious of never showing like the whole thing in a wide shot because it would just look so silly. It's just like it wouldn't look like a lake or anything like that. So I was always just trying to like frame it in a way that it would look like we're like in a little cove of Crystal Lake, kind of almost like Higgins Haven in the third one or whatnot.
Yeah. What were some of the like biggest hurdles that you had to face? Any cops come around, property owners, etc.?
No, I mean, since we pretty much filmed on like family property and stuff like that, we didn't run into any issues there. We did get pulled over once with that SUV full of equipment, and the cop was just like, "What in the hell are you guys doing?" And I had to explain like the And we're into like, really, you're shooting a movie? You know, that kind of like interaction that you get when local folk are just kind of blown away by the fact that like you're making a movie. And then the funny thing was like the next day we were out shooting some of like the vehicles on the highway shots and everything like that. And that same cop like pulled up. He's like, "Oh, you guys are making the movie. Nice. Do you need a cop in the movie?" And we're like, "Oh, if I did, I would totally ask you to be in it." As far as hurdles, it was really just kind of like, it was an ambitious thing to like try to like pull off. And it just commanded a lot of time and a lot more time than I quoted people, and I just kept asking them for more and asking them for more. And to their credit, I'm eternally grateful to the folks that helped make this movie, because if they didn't give me that time, there's no way it would happen. And grateful. It was just the most challenging thing was that I just shouldered so much of it myself, just because I just knew what I wanted it to be, and I knew how I needed it to be and them to show up for. But in terms of like, you know, planning it and shot lists and schedule, you know, I did everything. I was the producer. And then, you know, half the time I was shooting it because my other DP was in Connecticut. So he came up to do stuff. I would be the shooter, and, you know, and I'm running up lights. So it was just more like a personal toll on me, to where like I just exhausted I was just in my sleep, like direct. I'd like, and then I would like sit up in my own bed and almost be like, "Oh," and then I'd be like, "Oh, I'm in my own room. I'm not working on the movie." It was an all-consuming thing. And the one real challenging thing is I can hear all at the back of my head, like, "Are you kidding? The fucking rain." We got rained out a bunch.
Oh, man.
Including the second big weekend. We had this torrential downpour that came like out of nowhere. We all always talk about it because we call it the monsoon. And there was that big open area where they first show up at the campsite or whatever, and where they park the cars and stuff like that. And we were out there, we had equipment everywhere and stuff like that. And like, we're just looking and see the clouds roll in, and then just like, you could see this sheet wall of water. Rain just came right at us. And it was torrential, and like, we're rushing around trying to get all the costumes, get all the equipment out of there, and people are soaked. And I remember Dave went and jumped in my mom's Jeep, and we had the soft top on it, and it wasn't securely fastened, and he got in the Jeep, and the soft top loaded with water, and the water fell into his lap. And it soaked everything. And like, that was our second big weekend, and I had so much more that I wanted us to do, but because everything got so wet, and that was like the middle of the day, and we had to call it. People had to like go drive back to my mom and dad's house, so that way they could go take a shower and dry and get clean clothes, and like go put clothes in the dryer back at my mom's and everything. So like, we dealt with rain a lot. And sometimes we were able to kind of push through like a little bit of a shower, but we did get rained out like a couple of nights, and it just, you know, got to get this another time, got to get this scene another day. So really the rain was the worst at times.
Wow. Oh man. Okay, so I've got some script changes here that I noticed, because I read the book as well. So you got.
That's great. It's nice to talk to somebody who's actually read the book. Because not many, you know, it's not like the cast or crew read the book or anything like that. So
it's so hard to get. I had to listen to it. The 80s slasher librarian has a YouTube page, and he reads like all of the books from not just Friday, but anything else, like any kind of adaptation. So that's how I read it. I listened to it.
Okay.
You got rid of the old couple that gets killed by the, and you changed it to like two buddies that come into like his trailer looking for him. So in the book, it was like an old couple.
Yes.
Was that just casting availability?
Yeah, it was kind of like I didn't really know anybody that could fill that part, and like kind of back then, and this is the reason why I kind of like cast the way I did, is I was really just wanted to just be comfortable working with people that I knew and were familiar with, and I wasn't it wasn't like on my radar to just like, let me see if I can cast some elderly actors or something like that. So, and you know, and that's why Ned Varner is my old teacher because I knew him and I knew he could play the part. And I had actually just scrapped that completely. And the scene with the guys in the trailer was one of the scenes that I did in reshoots in 2007. Because when I had cut the movie together, there was a huge chunk in the middle where nobody got killed. Like you go from Ned Varner getting killed outside of the store, and you don't get anybody dead until Kyle and Suzanne go. And in the, you know, in my original cut, there was like a half hour that went by, and I was like, shit. I was like, I really need to kind of get that scene back. So I was like, all right, maybe I'll just readapt that scene and I'll make it two of the hunter's buddies coming to look for him or whatever. And it was an excuse for me to get a couple of my other pals who I thought were funny that I could get him in there. And so then it kind of evolved into that.
I thought it worked really nice.
Yeah, it was really good.
Thank you.
The other one I see is in the book, Ned is almost like a Norman Bates kind of character. And he's got like his mother mummified where he lives. I noticed you got rid of that too. It was really strange when it came up in the book.
Yeah, it was just kind of, it was something I kind of would have liked to have done, but just like having a full, like a mummified body and then having another house location. And then like, I kind of knew what like Paul's limits were kind of going to be on what he could do. And I kind of didn't want to really bring Varner back into the story. It was more of just kind of like making it easier on myself to just have him show up at the store, find some blood, and hightail it the other direction. I'm pretty sure that was my reasoning at the time. It was just more like, I don't know about this scene, and I don't know if I even really want to try to like pull it off.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I got it right away. Having read the book and also like making movies, it's like, this is gonna just be hell if I try and do this.
Yeah, a little too much extra.
Yeah.
So also Boone, I think he drives a motorcycle in the book, and then you've got him in a Jeep instead.
Yeah, that was another motorcycle. I have no access to a motorcycle. Ben did not have a motorcycle license, so I say, what's the next best thing? Take the top off. I could totally see Boone being just like a Jeep guy. So another necessity, basically.
Of course.
Yeah.
And then Albert's dream sequence is a little bit different in the book. I believe he moves his sleeping bag, and his lower body is like eaten away by worms.
Totally kind of forgotten about that one, to be honest. That's right. That was another one of like necessity where I'm just like his legs. So I was just like, let's just do a good old fashioned just quick scare and get the mask. It was an excuse for me to get a different mask in there because I had like a replica like Part 4 mask, and even though I wasn't using that for the main movie, I was like, I can sneak in the mask because now it can be he's just dreaming of any hockey mask.
Yes, and I like that a lot. I totally got that too. Because in the book, there's like all these white worms spread throughout, like as part of his theme that he was going for.
Yeah.
We got really like the camera angles during the opening of the film when he's walking through the forest. So Carly's bedroom, we liked the design. Was that designed, her bedroom, the way it was, or was it just like someone's bedroom?
That's Molly's room. That was Molly's childhood.
Didn't have to touch
bedroom,
it up at all.
No set dressing at all. We shot that scene like 3 different times. I remember because like I think the first 2 times that we shot it, it just went on and on and on forever. And I just remember just sitting. And I remember showing like a cut of the movie to my professor, and he was just like, "Cory, this is taking way too long for anything to happen." So I remember I think when Molly and I went to do it the 3rd time, I was like, all right, Molly, I think I trimmed a few lines, and I said, how we're going to do this differently too is I'm just going to do this in one take. I'm just going to put this thing on this, I called it the poor man Steadicam, the old pipes and the weight on the bottom, and we just did that, and we just went around in one whole thing and just tried to like rattle it off.
Yeah, we have one of those. Let's see.
Works great.
It does
What it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
All right. So next on the list here is we notice there's a for lease sign in the window. Is that like accident on purpose?
Or did you just like stumble
It's
across the
basically
gas station?
it's basically an accident. So that general store wasn't in operation, and it's just right. It was just kind of like right down the road from my house, and I remember calling the owner, just calling the police number, and just being like, "Hey, I'm not interested in leasing, but we're just a small film production unit trying to shoot a movie. We don't need to go inside. We're just like, can we just shoot in the parking lot and all that stuff?" And it always bugged the piss out of me that sign was in the window and I have the dolly shot that goes by. And I should have addressed it by like throwing like some line of dialogue where like Varner was. I should have had him been like, "Yeah, frankly, I just want to get out of this town myself. I'm trying to sell my store, but nobody wants to live here," or anything like that. I should have just had a throwaway line. And of course, like back then, After Effects and knowledge like that, I couldn't just paint that thing out. I should have actually done it on the re-edit that I did, but I just lived it in there.
I like it. Nothing wrong with it.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah.
The Crystal Lake sign when they arrive at the forest, it's different than most Crystal Lake signs that I see like at Spirit. Normally it's the yellow one, but yours kind of looked like it was wood or clay or something.
Cheap plastic, like Halloween decoration one. I was kind of always bothered by it too, because I always felt like it looked cheap, and I was at least happy that it kind of like looked brown. I wish I had like dirtied it up or put like some more like branches in front of it or something like that. Some of the stuff we did with some of the set decorations, stuff like that, just feels like so lazy or whatnot. But yeah, that was just a cheap old Halloween sign. I think it's actually still hanging up in the garage at my parents' house.
Use of Pantera in the movie. Let's talk about your music in there.
Yeah, Cemetery Gates, good song.
How'd you come to use the music that you chose for the movie?
Well, you guys have seen the most recent cut. Some of the music has changed. In the original cut, in the original trailer too, I used Blue Oyster Cult, Don't Fear the Reaper, and I kind of didn't think about the fact that I was really stepping on Halloween's toes with that back then. Really, a lot of the music was just kind of what I was into at the time. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still love Cemetery Gates. It's a great song. I wanted to sneak in some music from the movies, like the Neo A4 song from Jason Takes Manhattan. Like I wanted Alice Cooper in there, and
of course.
I think in the original cut, when Boone wakes up everybody with the radio, I actually did Crazy Train set in the book, but then I changed it to.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Then I changed it to Power Man 5000 because I thought that was more in line with what Boone would maybe be listening to. Yeah, just mostly tunes that I was into at the time, still am or whatever. I'm gravitated towards. But this time with this re-edit, I was like, I need a new song for when they're going to the camp. I don't want to use Blue Oyster Cult. Shouldn't step on Halloween with that, even though I think that song works great for that moment too. So I said, all right, I'm going to finally use this as a chance to work in some Tom Pitt. But yeah, other than that, it was a mix of just like a couple of tunes that I liked myself, and then just kind of mixing in what I could from the movies.
Have you had any copyright issues
like
with
that's
those?
Kill Switch Engage, but it's the Kill Switch Engage song from Freddy vs. Jason.
Have you had many copyright issues with the songs?
I think that's such a great horror movie soundtrack. No issues in the sense where anything had to get taken down or anything was muted. I just get like that notice that's like, "Oh, you're using music in this, so you can't make money off the movie." And I was like, "Well, I was never planning on ever making money off this movie. I'm literally ripping off all IP that is not mine, so I can't make any money off this anyway." So I'm more just happy that I didn't have to like take anything out of it. I'm glad YouTube would like let it fly, and that was even true when I first put it on YouTube back in 2007, and nothing got taken down from it then or anything either, which was good. So
yeah,
thankfully never had any problem with that, even though it's all used without any permission whatsoever.
Tell us about the gag you did when the hunter comes in and kills his two friends. He shoves the gun through his one buddy and then shoots the other one. How did you pull that one off?
That was fun. I don't know exactly what... I don't know what made me like exactly come to it, but I just trying to figure out how to knock these guys off. And I think I must have just sat there and just thought, I'm like, wouldn't it be fun if I just had him just impale him with the gun and he just gets him with the other guy? So I think I bought like a second, because obviously also that's the other thing. He uses a BB gun in it, basically, and then he's blowing people's heads off in one moment. He's just putting a bullet hole through them in another moment. There's no continuity or consistency with it at all. So I think we just did like another, like, I think I bought like another cheap BB gun, broke off like the sawed off the top of the other one, and we just did like this little rig that I made where I just attached it to a belt, and then we tied that. Like, I think I have a picture of my buddy with it, and before we put like the overshirt on it, and he's got like the belt wrapped around him, and it's sticking out his back, and then we used that and just kind of cleverly hit it with the camera angle, and then we did and then Steph, who did the makeup for the movie, another really good friend of mine, that was really into special effects makeup and everything like that. She did all that work, and she did a great job. And we figured out how we could get a little pool of blood going on the forehead and drip it down. I just thought, I don't remember how exactly I came up with it, but I knew it just felt like a fun gag to try to do.
Yeah, we really liked it.
Yeah, it was probably my favorite gag in the whole thing.
Thank you. And I think it's probably at least from the times that I've showed it to people that had never seen it before or whatever, it usually gets one of the biggest jumps because he just comes right out of nowhere into that hallway. I'm really proud of that moment because I was like, it's a good scare. That's a good one.
We had to pause it and like watch it slow too. Like, is this VFX or is this in camera?
Oh, it's all just the gag of it all. Yeah. You don't actually see it get like, I mean, basically in that shot, it's just the old clever, just like right between the arm and the...
Yes, okay, that's what I thought. That's what I was wondering if that's what that was.
If that's what how you're looking for it. Yeah, it's literally just side profile, just right through through between the arm and the side. The ribs.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about the French accent that Monique has.
Yeah.
That was
That
fun.
probably come up. This is my biggest regret in terms of trying to stay true to the source material. She was a French foreign exchange student in the story, and I wanted to stick to that for whatever reason. And Nicole, so we didn't touch on this when we were talking about the cast. So Nicole, who plays Monique, she came on to the movie a day before we started filming.
Oh, wow.
Because who I had lined up for Monique backed out at the last minute. And I was just like, oh my God, dude. I was just like, I'm so ready to go on this. I'm so stressed out. And I'm like, oh my God, I just lost one of my primary characters right before principal photography. And I don't know what to do. I was basically asking Steph if she would do makeup and act at the same time. And she's just like, no, Cory, I don't want to do that. And I'm just like, oh, what am I going to do? And Molly saved the day by saying, I have a friend. She's done a little bit of she did one of the plays. I think she did one of the playthings with her before. She's like, she might be down for this. Let me ask her. And I was pretty much like, I'm like, whoever is going to say yes to this is in it. I don't have to, if they're going to say yes, they're in it. And she was, and Nicole was like 16 at the time. She was like the youngest out of all of us. And she jumped on and she jumped in. And I asked her to do this ridiculous French accent. She didn't complain about it. She didn't say, do we have to? She just did it. She knows it wasn't great. I know it's not great. Everybody knows it's not great. And it is one of my biggest regrets that I just stuck to that. Because I sit here now and I'm just like, why can't it didn't have to be that way. It just should have just been, she didn't have to be a foreign exchange. She could have just been a new student and Boone was tutoring her or whatever like that in French class. And it could have been anything else. So it was me just being way too devoted to wanting to stick to the source material for
we all get that way,
a detriment to it, because usually that's one of the things that people are always like, what is with the French accent thing? And I'm like, yeah, that's on me. That's my bad. That's my but it does cause for some really unintentional funny comedy at times.
Yeah, it's still fun. It adds to the overall fun of watching the movie. So like, yeah.
We all have those things that we're like, oh, super gung-ho for it has to happen, and then watching it back a couple years later, like, well, I guess I didn't have to.
Like, why? I should've just done- No, that's if I could go back and only change one single thing about that movie, it would be that. That would be the one thing I would not put poor Nicole through. As if it went into this movie not knowing anybody else except for Molly and just want to just dive in. She was a trooper though. She came through and saved that production at the last minute, so all credit to her. Really.
Talk about lighting your lighting for like the night shots out in the woods. How was that?
Like the equipment you use, the type of setup.
At the lights from Fry's, it probably would have been me buying like scoop lights from Home Depot. I mean, which we did use at times. But thankfully, we took some of the light kits. They were real deal light kits. From the school, we probably took 2 sets of them. They had scrims and everything and barn doors. It was the whole 9 yards. It was a pain though because where we needed to shoot some scenes were just so far from like any power source that we had like
right in 2006
300-400 foot like extension cords just running out of a garage just way out into the woods or whatnot. A lot of times we'd probably only be running like 1 light, 2 lights at a time or something like that. It wouldn't be going like the campfire was easier to light because we were a little closer to the source and be able to put up a few around there, but we're having to lug those lights out into the woods and run extension cords for hundreds and hundreds of feet.
Right, 2006.
Trying to keep them, trying to keep them out of the elements and stuff like that. We use a mix of like gels, a lot of glue, stuff like that.
The color looked great, yeah.
So yeah, thankfully we had the light kits. It's not very consistent at times. Sometimes it would shine through very sharply. It almost looked like how they lit the night scenes in part 7. And then you'd have other times where we had some nice blue to it or it was a little bit softer. A lot of that too was just because I do pickups and reshoots of certain scenes and then I wouldn't have lights anywhere in the same place or the same intensity or the same exposure on the camera. And so it's a little inconsistent, but I'm super happy we had those light kits that we weren't just running out there with just, floodlights from Home Depot and everything.
All right, so you touched upon the lake being a pond a little bit. So you were actually in the water filming this, it looks like, in some of those shots?
Oh, yeah. Another just one of those things where you're just like, should not have done that. Just right out there in a canoe with the school's camera, just like, no problem. Just like, Cory, you're not worried about the camera falling in the water? No, just get out there and shoot it. Let's go. So anything, yeah. Nobody was ever in the water holding the camera. So anytime that the camera is obviously on the water or out there, it's in a canoe, but still it's out there in a canoe, and I'm just like, man, I could have just flipped over at any point. School's camera goes in there, and then I'm like spending money for the school year on replacing the camera for the school. So It was, it's not like I really told my professors or anybody back at the school how I treated the equipment half the summer. But my DP was right out there in the canoe, just had propped up on a tripod, and just had my cousin. I had a lot of my cousins out there just being like PAs and like helping, and they were also just like completely just aces on everything. So like have my DP up in the front of the canoe and my cousin be in the back just paddling along and going out there and getting that stuff.
Wow.
This was a shot that I really liked. So when Peter comes up on Carly when she's changing her clothes, and like he looks and then he walks away right when she turns around and looks, and then she turns back around and then you see the hunter go by. I liked the editing and the pacing of that. That was really good.
Thank you. That's not something that's in the book. That's just something I came up with just right then and there, because I knew how it was going to go together at that point. I'm like, we're going to get to Paul and Albert's big scene coming up after that, and had the spy thing, and I think just on the day I was just like, oh man, how that would be actually pretty freaking awesome if like she turns and looks, and then when she turns back around, he just walks up as he's following him right along. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite things in the movie too.
Really well paced, really well edited. I loved it.
Thank you.
So the mask that you chose for the movie it's the Jason X mask before he gets the Uber Jason. What was your choice with that?
It wasn't because it was the Jason X mask. I've never been the biggest fan of Jason X or anything like that. It was just when I was looking for masks to use, and even though I had the Part 4 mask, that replica mask that I used in the dream sequence, I was like, I don't want to use that for the movie. It looks too clean. It also just looked too big on my actor's head. It just kind of like dwarfed it, because Derek, who plays the hunter, he's a little bit of a smaller, shorter kind of guy, so it just didn't look right on him. And so I just went on eBay and I was just looking around, and I saw that mask, and the thing that I liked most about it was the green. I was just really taken by like the green look of it. And I was just like, well, that could be kind of neat. You know, it's been buried in the ground for like so long. It takes on like some sort of like earthy like coloration. And then combine that with like the whole camouflage look of him. It just kind of like completed like the whole look. So I said, I'm going to grab that. And I was also like, I think it looks like it's a little smaller too. And then when Derek put it on, it just fit his face just really well. So it just the look, the size, the shape, it all just fit. It just happened to be the Jason X mask. But mostly it was probably that green that made me go, ooh, I really like that. It looks different. It fit this story and what the mask and the journey of the mask, sort of.
So then you bought it that color, then you didn't change it that color? Yep.
Nope, that was just somebody made that fiberglass mask, and that's how. Single thing about it. Nope, and Derek still has it.
Okay.
Yep. And Steph, Derek and Steph are actually married. Derek has the mask, or them. They're been married since the movie, and she actually has the mother's head mock-up still.
Oh, cool.
Too.
So we did notice. So when Boone and Monique are on the canoe, we noticed that Boone's hair changes. So like before he goes in the water, it's a certain way. Then he comes out and it's obviously wet. But then we were thinking, because it looks a little different, like in like the next shot, like maybe he just dried his hair off. We just noticed a little kind of fun little change in his hair.
Oh, when Derek comes up out of the water.
Yeah, so like his hair is one way. No. When Boone dies. So when Boone like his hair's one way, and it goes in the water, and obviously it's wetted down, and then after that, it's not quite the same it was before he went in the water, and we figured that maybe he just like dried his hair off, and it doesn't quite look how he said it himself when going to film that morning. It was just a little thing that we saw, because you know.
I'm trying to remember if I want to say that scene was shot across 2 different days, or actually not 2 different days, 2 different weekends, or I might have gotten pickups at a later date and his hair had grown a little bit more or whatnot. There are continuity errors like that all over the movie where people's hair is a little different, a little more grown out. I think maybe we tackled bits of that scene at two different periods of time. I think, because I think I know what you're talking about, and also, or it might have just been like he had been out of the water so long at that point that his hair had dried and nobody was really looking at continuity. Because I think I remember when we were first shooting that scene, it was like at like the very end of like our weekend. And it was like Sunday, and it was like 4 or 5 o'clock, and my buddy Matt, the DP, still had to drive like 3 hours back to Connecticut, and I was like, "What time is it?" It was like 4 o'clock. I'm like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "All right, let's get the rest of this stuff, and let's get you the hell out of here." I'm so sorry, guys.
You just lose track.
Yeah, basically.
I read about a post-credit scene. Is there a post-credit scene that you filmed? when he's fishing in the water.
Yeah, originally I never included it in the movie. I included it as a bonus feature on the DVD that I first put out. I had my buddy Kendall, who ended up then playing one of the guys that goes to the hunter's trailer there. I had him. I was always like, if I do Jason's Curse, you got to be Big Red, because you could be Big Red. So I ended up filming like the little thing, and he's out in the canoe, and he fishes up, and he pulls up the mask. It just kind of felt kind of hokey. And then I was like, I don't think it's really good enough to kind of go on the end as a tag. And then I'm like, honestly, this movie took so much out of me, and I don't know if I would even be able to pull off the next movie. So I don't want to kind of like promise something I can't deliver. So I ended up just like throwing it on the DVD.
Oh, and so watching the credits, this sounded interesting. Your Ted's Steamed Cheeseburgers was under your craft services. Reminds me of that line in The Simpsons where he's like steamed hams. I thought that was a funny place. Is that like a fun local cheeseburger joint, or?
It not up in our area. That was a Connecticut joint that my buddy Matt and Allie, who plays Suzanne, they were dating at the time, and they offered to just kind of get some basically craft services from a local place in Connecticut. And so they're like, we know this place called Ted's Steam Cheeseburgers. We'll get some stuff from them and bring it up. So they did that one of the weekends, and I was like, well, I'll throw it in there in the crafty credits. I wanted any excuse to fill out the end credits as much as possible, so they felt lengthy enough to be a true end credit sequence.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's all I got. Did you have any questions, Greg?
Yeah, we basically covered it all. It was so much fun to watch the film.
I appreciate that. You guys did your homework. Nobody else have I had like this kind of a conversation about Mother's Day with. So like, I appreciate that you guys like check this stuff and watch. I mean, first and foremost, watching the movie, I'm always happy that people still discover it, and most of the time I get pretty decent comments on YouTube. There's a few jerks or whatever, but
you'll get trolls. You'll get trolls.
I appreciate that people can look past at times just it looks old. It's right in the middle of the aughts where like HD wasn't totally available, wasn't cheap yet or whatever, because believe me, I was like, man, if this was made just a few years later and with HD, I'm like, this thing would still just look so damn good. So yeah, I mean, I appreciate that you guys like really like got into it and looked at all this stuff and checked out some old things and had all these questions to ask about it, because that jogged my memory a little bit on some of this stuff, but I remember a lot of it because I'm very proud of this movie. It's still, I made it when I was 21, 22 years old. And even still to this day, despite the things that are goofy about it or cheap about it or the things that don't work about it, I'm still intensely proud of it. And I'm always game to watch it. It's one of the only, I have so many other short films and so many other things that I've made, and I don't want to look at them or anything like that. But Mother's Day, I'm always like a family member or like a friend or a new friend or something like that. They want to check it out or something like that, or the guys and I want to throw it on because we haven't seen it like that. I'm always down to watch it because I think we did for what we could, and with no school film equipment, I thought we did, a decent enough job that it's something that is, watchable if people can kind of put aside budget DV-ness of it.
I don't know if you make claim to this at all. Are you like the first fan film, maybe? Somewhere around there? First real fan film?
To be like the first fan...
For Friday specifically.
No, never claimed to...
For Friday the 13th.
Never claimed to be like the first... There were like a few... I can't remember like the titles of them now. There were a few others like at the time... I don't know, like Friday the 13th Revenge or something. There were like a few others at the time. Like fan films were kind of just almost still like up and coming then, and that's when like some guy in like Colorado had made like Freddy vs. Ghostbusters or something like that around like 2003, and that was more like a high profile fan film with like real good effects and stuff like that. So no, never claimed to be like the first or anything like that, but at the time I was like, we're one of the best ones. I know now, there's been Never Hike Alone, and things that are shot in HD, and people get Tom Matthews from Friday. They get Tom Matthews to come be in like these movies and stuff like that. Like, I know obviously they've gotten bigger and better now, but at the time, may not have been one of the first, but I thought at the time, and at least in that little period there, I thought we had one of the best ones.
I absolutely think it's worth watching. And if there's anything else you want to say, do you want to promote your Instagram or anything like that? And of course, when we
my Instagram is pretty chill. It's mostly just birthday posts and anniversary posts and stuff at this point.
Or your YouTube page.
Yeah, not very active, but I do like to post some supercuts. There is a Friday the 13th supercut that I have on there that I did that just kind of like is almost like my love letter to the franchise. And that just because I love video editing, and it's what I do with my day job. I like, most days I like it. Some days I just want to just, crash my head against the desk, because Adobe will just drive me nuts or whatever.
Yeah.
But, I do still like editing stuff, and, and hopefully at some point in the future, I'd like to get a little bit of a short together for something that I got, but I did put it took me like a couple of years to get through this re-edit of Mother's Day, because like there's 3 versions of this movie. This is how obsessed I am with my own work and just wanting to go back and work on it. The first cut, the one that came out in 2007, it's solid, it's good. It's just, I would watch it and be like, cut, take the air out here. We don't need that line there. Let's move it along. But I did like a re-edit of it back in like 2015, and upon like reviewing it, I'm like, I made the color worse. I took too much out of it. It moves too fast. It has no pacing. It's bad. So then I was like, all right, I can't sit on that. So I'm like, I'm going to do this retooled one. So the most recent version, I think, is what I would call the best version of Mother's Day. And, for other Friday the 13th fans or other aspiring filmmakers and stuff like that, take a look at it, learn from it, enjoy it, sit around and watch it with some other fellow Friday the 13th fans. I think there's one thing I went for. It was just try to capture the tone of Friday the 13th, and that's something I feel like I was able to accomplish fairly well, and kind of makes it fit in there. I'll get people who be like, Cory, this is better than some of the actual movies that there are. I'm like, okay, sure. I'm like, not really, but but thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
Maybe we'll film the second book and you can edit it.
Amazing. I mean, I would love it. I would love to see Jason's Curse get adapted. I guess a question for you guys: what do you think of the other books? I did not. The third and the fourth one, the Carnival and Road Trip. I'm like, yeah, those aren't very good. But
I read them. I read the other ones. I think they're all about the same. I feel that Jason's Curse definitely stepped it up as far as graphic gore goes, which is fine. Obviously, Carnival would probably be the hardest one to try and adapt, but. And I think Carnival and Road Trip were both the Jason aspect shows up halfway through the book, real way at the end.
Carnival alone.
But but they're all about the same. But I do think Jason's Curse would probably be the best one to go with next, plausibility wise.
There was somebody out there that. Yeah, there was some. I think there was somebody that reached out to me a couple of years ago. I think they were trying to make Jason's Curse, because I think they were asking if they could use stuff from Mother's Day in their movie. And while I didn't exactly say no, because who might it be some gatekeeper like that? I was more just kind of like, go make your own thing. Go. Don't try to lean on what I did or anything like that. Just go make Jason's Curse how you would make it. It's not going to be able to directly follow mine and my cast or whatnot. But I know there's been attempts out there. I think a lot of people are attracted to that one because it's a different story having somebody actually go out there and hunt Jason, not in the way that like Creighton Duke does and like Jason Goes to Hell. It's just like the idea of like the final girl is actually out there to go get like Jason. So
Right.
it'd be even great to see that storyline some way work itself into a Friday the 13th movie if if they ever make another one, which I would love it if they would at some point. It's been a long time.
Yeah, no, way too long. I mean, that's why we made ours.
Yeah, and you guys have your project. I haven't been able to. I've checked out your trailer and everything like that, and you guys look like you're busting on something really good there.
We like to call it the real Part 9.
I guess that you guys' project is the real Part 9.
Yeah, well, the script I wrote follows takes Manhattan right as it ends. Although I cut out if he doesn't turn into a baby though. So yeah,
he doesn't turn into.
So if the sewage just kind of washes him away, that's where my movie picks up.
Nice.
But if that's everything,
okay, that's awesome. What's kind of like the status?
We're editing it right now, so we're just working on the edit. The movie's done. We're just working on
editing
color.
at it when you guys are all through with it.
Definitely. I'll send you a link once I get it up and ready to watch. But the editing, we're just editing right now and coloring and just kind of trying to lock it in.
It's a fun process. It's definitely one of our longer projects.
Honestly, you can really, you'll find things that you can do with it, and yeah.
Well, if that's it, thanks for being on and agreeing to interview. It was a blast.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me on. I was just like, yeah, I'll come talk about Mother's Day. You can't shut me up about it sometimes. I'm still, like I said, very proud of it. So I'm just happy that people watch it and want to talk about it. I'm always happy to talk about it. It was a really fun time and a great experience.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, and we'll talk to you later.
Yeah, good luck the rest of the way on your film, guys.
See ya. All right. And we're back straight from the intro to the outro. So how did it go, Greg?
That was such a cool interview. It's always so much fun having a creator and artist talk about what they've done, and it's just to see how passionate he still is about the project after 15 some odd years.
Yeah, he talked very well. I liked talking to him. Seemed like a guy that would fit right into our crew.
Yeah,
if we had him with us.
He'd definitely be.
I wish we had him with us. He said he was like 2021 when he made it, so like 2006. Yeah. That's right around when our age. So
a few years older, but yeah.
Is it? Maybe.
Well, you're older than me.
I'm older than you. So I hope everyone enjoyed that interview, and if you did, go check out his movie Mother's Day. I'll probably link it and tag him as needed for the podcast, so all his people can listen, and all my people can listen, and all your people can listen, Greg.
Yeah.
And out of all those people, go check out his movie, because it sounds like he put a lot of work into it, and it's a lot of fun to watch. With that sequel podcast for this week, I'm Matt Bonta.
I'm Greg Klino.
Peace out.